Parallel realities, worlds, dimensions, and author's playground. There are so many great series that utilize this trope, both in literature and in media. We don't even care it's a trope because it's so entertaining. Here's my top 10 examples. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Today, just Jim, the father here, bringing to you a quick take episode. Just a short little thing talking about some of my favorite books and media, so TV and movies, that go into the use of parallel worlds, parallel dimensions, parallel realities to entertain, to make a point, to add a level of richness to the storytelling. If you enjoy these like I do and enjoy this episode, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we hope you will. Got any comments about these? That's what there's a comment box for here on YouTube. So, I've got 10. There are way more than 10 examples I could think of, but of all the ones that I've experienced, both reading and watching, these rise to the top. Number 10. The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I read the trilogy first, then I watched the TV adaptation. They both use the same elements of alternate worlds, multiple realities, a multiverse, all of which can be reached magically through the Netherlands, a place that's a portal. Again, reached through magic, from which you can jump off to all sorts of possible dimensions and realities. It's amazing, and it's a key story element here. So that's number 10. Number 9 is the franchise that Lev Grossman ripped off to write this, and that's The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Here we've got our world and Narnia, another world that children magically reached through a portal that happens to be in, well, this big wardrobe. You know, the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe. But before that, you go back further in time, though it's not originally the first book. You buy it now, it's the first book. You've got The Magician's Nephew, where the magician's nephew swipes a magic ring and ends up in the wood between the worlds, a place with a whole bunch of ponds. And by stepping into or jumping into any of these ponds, you end up in another reality, a whole nother world where time may operate different, physics may operate different. Narnia is one of those worlds. These are all different places reached magically. Fascinating. Now, when I say Lev Grossman ripped it off to write The Magicians, he actually wanted to literally use the same thing. And I understand that the estate of C.S. Lewis said, So he twisted it himself. Narnia becomes Fillory. The Wood Between the Worlds becomes the Netherlands. But come on, if you've read them, you knew what he did. I take it more as an homage. Number 8, The Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. In this fascinating series, in particular the first 5 books, because there are 10, the first 5 are better, in my opinion, and they really lay out what this is all about, parallel dimensions there, because you have Amber, which is laid out as the prime reality, and everything else is a shadow of it. And to move from one reality to another, you simply have to change one aspect of it. And certain characters have the ability to do this. What's never quite known for sure is, are all these other realities real? Are they actual real worlds, or are they places created by those who think of them to travel from one place to another? I don't want to go deeper than that, but it's kind of laid out. There could be an infinite number of parallel worlds here. Some very much like Amber, some completely not Amber. And it's fascinating. Number 7, Star Trek. Pretty much all of the original versions used in some episode or other the mirror universe, where you get good guys who are suddenly bad guys, and it's a mirror. Fascinating when they did it in the original series to see how Spock flipped to such a bad guy and yet was still a Vulcan was very cool. But they brought this back throughout all the other iterations of Star Trek. Now, they haven't done the specific mirror universe with the reboot series, but keep in mind the reboot is in reality a mirror universe. A mirror is the wrong word, but it is definitely a parallel universe to the original Star Trek that we knew, with only a couple of characters carrying over, one of those being Spock. So they've got parallel universes going on for sure in Star Trek, and I found them highly entertaining. Number 6, The Dark Tower by Stephen King. In this epic fantasy series, very large epic fantasy series, there's a character who literally says, this is in the first book, The Gunslinger, "Go then, there are other worlds than these." It's a fundamental premise of the series that there are all different parallel worlds all over the place, some of them being very similar to each other, some being extremely different. And I, have versions of ourselves in all of these other worlds. Or maybe, in some versions we were never born. In some versions we died very early. In some versions there may be things that are completely different and we never existed because humans didn't exist. It's very brainy what Stephen King came up with here. He also manages to put all of his, well, I don't know about all, but nearly all of his novels into this universe he creates for the Dark Tower. Many of them being varying parallel realities from each other, not necessarily all the same world. He even puts himself into it. Some people don't like that. I thought it was brilliant. So that's number 6, The Dark Tower. Number 5 is actually another Stephen King book, which might be part of the Dark Tower reality here, but in and of itself, this one brings multiple parallel realities into existence thanks to time travel, and that's 11/22/63. Because you learn in this book, time travel isn't quite what you think it is. To tell you more would be a massive spoiler, so I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, again, parallel realities are there, and it was fantastic and very creative of Stephen King on this one, so I love it. Number 4, straight off TV series this time, Fringe. I loved Fringe. I believe 4 seasons exist. The first 3 seasons were great, and the 4th was a little weaker. And then, of course, the show was gone. But a fundamental element of it is that there are parallel realities. Not just our reality. There's at least 2. And to tell you more would be a problem. So I can't tell you more without ruining Fringe to a degree. But that show, man, it's awesome. If you've never seen Fringe, go check it out. I think you can see it all now on Prime Video. I think they have the whole run available. Number 3, one of the more recent TV things that have been a phenomenon now, Stranger Things. With our reality and then the Upside Down, which is kind of a mirror, darker reality dimension that doesn't quite touch ours, and yet there are crossovers, there are crossing points, there can be breaks between, but those breaks are a problem. These 2 realities should not be mixing, and stranger things happen because of it. I love this show. We're waiting for season 5 to come out, which is supposed to be the conclusion. We don't have a drop date yet, but when it happens, I am so there. Number 2, this is a book series that somehow I keep finding ways to mention, and that's because it's so incredible. The Zombie Fallout series by Mark Tufo. Mark Tufo has written Zombie Fallout in this specific world he placed it in, and yet he's got, partnered with it, a whole bunch of other parallel realities. His characters, especially the core character, Mike Talbot, has visions at times and dreams of these other realities, other versions of himself involved with other versions of his family and friends. And what he's really doing here is these are other realities that somehow he's connecting with. Mark Tufo even adds a character, Trip, whose name itself is a hint. He literally can travel between these dimensions. We don't know everything about Trip still, but he's a Trip. He also likes to get high all the time, so Trip has another. There are characters in the Zombie Fallout series that appear as themselves with slight variations because it's a different reality in the series, like in Fallout, Indian Hill, United States of Apocalypse, even Zombie Fallout in the later books. It's not the same reality that 1 through, I think, 18 happen in. It becomes another parallel reality. Mark Tufo's having a good time writing all this, and it does make sense when you follow it. So again, I recommend the Zombie Fallout series, but that's only number 2. I do have something I've saved for number 1, and that's The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick and marvelously adapted for Amazon Prime Video. This occurs in a parallel universe where the Nazis and the Japanese, the Axis powers, actually were victorious in World War II. America is occupied. You've got the East Coast, the east part of the nation, occupied by the Nazis. You've got the West Coast occupied by the Japanese, and you got a little neutral territory in the middle, kind of where the Rocky Mountains are, where it's kind of wild, wild west and anything goes. I've only watched the first season. It was fantastic. I know already that it's not just this alternate universe, but ours exists too, and there's some bleed through happening. But I don't know why or how or where this is going to go because I haven't read the book it's based on yet. I'm going to finish the TV series, then I'm going to go read the book. I never do things in that order, but sorry, the show just looked too fascinating. I wanted to watch. And then I will go back and read the original property. But this is amazing. And perhaps why I like this the most is it's another version of parallel realities. We actually have a fiction genre, alternate history. And that's kind of what you're getting here, except with the intentional bleed through between parallel realities, it belongs here. But I love World War II. I'm a history buff there. My grandfather served in World War II. Anything about World War II was fascinating to me. Once upon a time, I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. The thing was this thick. I mean, it was Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archive thick, but made with onion paper. That really thin stuff. And it was by far the longest book I'd ever read. This was halfway through high school. It was fascinating. So anything like this, I dig. And now I've got this twist for a TV show, but the Nazis and the Japanese winning and the Americans occupied, but trying to figure out how to push back. I love this. I'm here for this. I am enjoying The Man in the High Castle, and it's my number 1. I do want to throw out one honorable mention. I thought about putting it in the top 10, but that would have been too much fanboy. It doesn't belong in the top 10. But The Wheel of Time has parallel realities involved because of the portal stones. We don't think the portal stones are going to make it into the TV series. It's pretty easy to leave them out. But you get involved with the portal stones, you're talking about all sorts of parallel worlds. Some very close to our reality, some very far away and barely a shadow of our reality. But anything you could imagine happening, it's in one of those realities. It's lightly touched on in The Wheel of Time, early in the books, really, and then they just kind of move on and leave those alone because I think Robert Jordan decided that was too complicated. I want to stick to the main story. But it's canon. It's part of it. Parallel worlds, part of The Wheel of Time. Honorable mention. That's where I'll leave you then. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, leave your comments down below. We'll talk to you next time.